A federal judge has agreed to delay sentencing at least until March. Brian Todd is all over the story for us. Brian, this Judge Emmett Sullivan is known for offering his unfiltered opinion from the bench. What are you learning?
Judge Sullivan is absolutely known for that, Wolf. And today the judge went pretty far by his own admission, going as far as to say, asking if Michael Flynn had committed treason. The judge later softened that, saying he was merely asking a question. And Judge Sullivan also had to walk back a comment about Flynn, quote, selling out his country with lobbying work. Still, this judge has been known as a very effective jurist, and much of that is because of his very blunt style.
The man who, from the bench, told Michael Flynn he was not hiding his disgust or his disdain for Flynn's crime, gave the former national security advisor and the American people a dose today of what legal heavyweights in Washington have known for decades. Judge Emmett Sullivan pulls no punches.
No matter who you are, Judge Sullivan is going to tell it like it is.
First appointed to D.C. courts by Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, President Clinton made Sullivan a U.S. District Court judge 24 years ago. Since then, he has been known for colorful, controversial rulings and comments against both political parties, sometimes directing his most stinging criticism toward prosecutors. In 2009, he tossed out the conviction of former Republican Senator Ted Stevens in a corruption case because prosecutors hadn't handed over evidence that would have been helpful to Stevens. Stevens' lawyers were grateful.
But there are some heroes in this story as well, and the foremost among them is Judge Emmett Sullivan.
The case lingered in Judge Sullivan's own recollections of his career in a speech he gave in 2012.
The Ted Stevens case will always be one of the most memorable.
And for young federal prosecutors, it was a teaching moment.
And because of that, every federal prosecutor, including myself when I was a federal prosecutor, was trained in the law, in making sure that appropriate disclosures were made to the defense.
Sullivan may have made a national impact on the law, but he came from humble origins.
I am a native Washingtonian and proud of that.
Emmett Sullivan, now in his early 70s, was born and raised in Washington, D.C., and came of age during some of the city's most tumultuous periods, like the race riots in the late 1960s. With sheer will and ambition, those who know him say he powered his way through the D.C. public schools, then Howard University and Howard Law School. Early in his career, he found in favor of a woman whose landlord had mistreated her. It's a decision he says defined his thinking as a judge.
I knew at that point that I had administered justice as a new judge, and it made a positive difference in the life of someone. I'm so fortunate to have had that experience early on in my judicial career.
There's no silver spoon in his mouth. He learned the way people should behave by his own experiences. That's what I think makes him a good judge.
In August of this year, Judge Sullivan took an unusual step while presiding over a case where an immigrant mother and daughter were plaintiffs in a lawsuit over asylum restrictions. Sullivan became irate when the Trump administration deported the mother and daughter and ordered the U.S. government to, quote, turn that plane around. Then he threatened to bring the U.S. Homeland Security Secretary and the Attorney General into court to answer potential contempt of court accusations.
What he said to Flynn in court, the Stevens case, the immigrant mother being turned around, these were dramatic pronouncements in court. Is he a diva? Is he overly theatrical?
I don't think so. I think he's just a very principled person. He has a clear sense of what he thinks is right and wrong, and he'll let you know what he thinks is right and wrong when you come before him.
Now, political, legal observers and millions of Americans are going to be watching to see what Judge Sullivan does in 3 months when Michael Flynn comes back before Sullivan to be sentenced. Legal analysts say Flynn and his lawyers are going to have to demonstrate to Sullivan that Flynn has given the utmost cooperation to the special counsel and that he is truly remorseful for his crimes. In other words, they say Michael Flynn is now under even more pressure than he was before because of the demands of Judge Emmett Sullivan. Wolf?
Truly an extraordinary moment today here in Washington. Judge Sullivan, Brian, also is presiding over another very high-profile, politically charged case involving President Trump.
That's right, Wolf. More than 200 Democrats in Congress are suing President Trump for violating part of the Constitution by not asking Congress's approval for his businesses to accept payments from foreign governments. Judge Sullivan is presiding over that case, and in September, he ruled that the lawsuit can proceed. So there's going to be a lot of fireworks regarding Judge Sullivan in that case as well.
Very principled judge indeed. All right, Brian, thank you very much. There's more breaking news coming up. More on what that surprise twist that could mean jail for the former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn might mean. Plus, why is the White House not concerned about Michael Flynn's lying to the FBI?